On any given night, there's 53,000 people suffering from homelessness in the greater Los Angeles area.
Homeward LA is a project designed
to inspire the community to take more action.
I got a group of writers together, and we met with individuals who have experienced homelessness and identified stories from their lives, and then developed those stories as monologues.
Yeah, this is a spot I used to sleep in a couple years ago. It breaks your heart, you know, it breaks your soul. I don't want to die on the sidewalk.
There's a certain freedom in being vulnerable.
For years, I held on to this story, wouldn't tell nobody, so it's helping me to grow.
In our first 2 years, hundreds of actors shared these powerful stories with thousands of audience members, raising over $180,000 to help our unhoused neighbors through a nonprofit on Skid Row called the Midnight Mission.
Like, now I get to reunite with my kids. Now we can start healing, you know. Now I get to be a mother again.
Peace, family. Welcome to Homeward Live, presented by Homeward LA, a grassroots project committed to sharing stories from people who've been homeless to inspire the community to take action to end the homeless crisis. We strongly believe this starts with a shared vision of a world where all of our neighbors are housed. Now, click the link for this live stream and share with everyone you know right now. I'm Sean Baker. It's my tremendous honor and pleasure to be your host every Thursday evening for the next 3 weeks for this very special Homeward Live event. You will hear powerful stories from individuals who've experienced homelessness, performed by great actors, followed by a candid, intimate conversation between the actor and the real person who lived the story. Now, Homeward LA would like for you to click the link in the description, and so we can stay in touch with you, leave your email address so we can stay in better touch with you and properly thank you for tuning in for tonight's event. Now, let's drop in. You know this incredibly talented actor from his work on Mean Girls, HBO's Looking, and the podcast, Yes, Jesus, to name a few. Please give a warm welcome to Daniel Franzese as he shares a story of performing in drag for the first time from Brian.
My grandma used to say, whenever I'm sad, I just put a little lipstick on and I feel better. So one day, when I was about 8, I tried it. And she yelled at me, "What are you doing? That's a girl's thing." She had no idea what was coming. My mom had me when she was 13. She became an addict and would trade me for drugs. So one day when I was about 8, so the dealers had their way with me while she was getting her fix, and eventually I was given over to my grandma, but I kept getting into trouble, and she said she couldn't take care of me no more, and she put me in foster care. My foster parents let me do whatever the hell I wanted. As long as they were collecting checks, they were happy, so I never really belonged anywhere. I bounced around from home to home, and I wasn't a girl, but I didn't feel like a boy. And in high school, I'd get scolded by the principal. "Boys can't wear makeup in school." I wasn't doing it for attention. It was just that I was struggling with who I was, and fashion and art was my therapy. I could express myself while also hiding behind a disguise, if that makes sense. Sometimes I'd wear a normal collared button down, but some days I just felt like walking down the street in taffeta and dark sunglasses and a big hat, you know? And that was in Rialto, okay? That wasn't in West Hollywood or New York City. When I was 22, I was trying to get sober for the first time, and my AA group was putting on a themed drag show, Girls of the 80s. It was a pageant, and it had never occurred to me to perform in drag before, but I was like, yes, like it just felt so right. I already liked dressing up, but I had never done it on stage to music in front of an audience. Luckily, I had 4 months to prepare. And every day I was working on something, choreographing, sewing, practicing my makeup. I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't even know what contouring was, okay? I could see you don't know either. Backstage before the show, I was so nervous. I was scared of being judged. I was doubting my creative choices, but there's just no turning back at that point. They called us all on stage for the opening number, and I was wearing the Madonna Like a Virgin wedding ensemble, lacy gloves, bangles, veil. And I had been growing out my hair so it was just long enough to crimp, and I walked out petrified. But by the end of the routine, I couldn't wait to get back out there. Up next was the talent portion. My talent was hookah, chola, realness. Like basically I was a bad bitch. Jeans, crop top, big hoop earrings, lino without the lipstick. And I danced to Tina Marie's Lover Girl. I wore these stripper boots. I was so scared I would fall in them because I have weak ankles. But I hit almost every move on cue. People were eating it up. Especially when I tore off my pants and strutted in my itty-bitty Daisy Dukes. Did I mention I was 386 pounds at the time? That is right, honey. I owned it. And then the next round, the swimsuit question and answer. If I tell you I glided across the stage in a little triangle top bikini number, and the judges asked me, what does your higher power look like? And I said, my higher power is Jesus, guns, and fried chicken, Hammy. This is like my drop the mic. The crowd went wild. People still quote me. And then I had to run backstage to get into my evening gown look. Divine in the movie Pink Flamingos. You know Divine, the drag queen who played Ricky Lake's mom in the original Hairspray. Anyway, I threw on a tight red dress with that flare at the bottom, and I put on bright blue eyeshadow up to here. And then I went to do those straight black eyebrows, but I couldn't find my makeup pencil anywhere. I panicked, and I saw a black Sharpie, and I just went for it. I'll worry about it later. And then I put my wig and my bald cap on. For that receding beehive hairdo, the cap ripped. Oh my God. I had only a few minutes before I had to get back on stage, and I made a split decision. I shaved my head, and I super glued the wig directly onto my skin. When I went back out there, I was beauty, I was grace, I was divine. The audience stood up from their seats, cheering and whistling and shouting, and in all of that mayhem, suddenly everything had slowed down. And I felt the most present that I had ever been. And I don't know how to explain it other than this. But I could feel God looking back at me and telling me that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. That it was okay to be different. And that it was okay to be me. My performance was entertaining, though maybe a little rough around the edges. I didn't have the finesse or the stage presence that I have now. I mean, these days I actually have a small fan base and I get paid to perform. And now my routines are polished. My costumes are flawless. I am cut, chiseled, and angled to perfection. But I'll never forget that first drag show when I shaved my head to be divine. And I felt like myself for the first time in my life.
Wonderful job, Daniel. Wonderful, just amazing. I want to say that the story was written by Emily Finkelstein. Since the story was written, Brian has began transitioning to Lexi. Daniel, please meet Lexi.
Hi, Lexi.
Hi, Daniel.
How are you? Thank you for sharing that story with all of us.
And thank you for reading it. A lot of memories.
So you turned it out. You ended up turning it out.
I did. And, it just it was like the only place that it was acceptable to be the opposite gender of what I was born with on stage because it was acceptable, right? And to leave the stage to go walk out as me is not so acceptable in society.
Sure. And like your support group of your group of sober friends, just like they're letting you just be who you are and just kind of finding out who that is while you're experiencing sobriety.
Yeah, I think I've been really fortunate that like I have my sober friends and then I have my normie friends. And so like the people that like I'm still connected with then, I'm still connected with today, and it's grown much bigger. So I think I'm really fortunate in that aspect to be able to have that type of support because I know that not everybody that transitions gets to get that support, right? You don't always get to have the people that were there before to be there now in the moment.
What would you want to say to a younger version of yourself, knowing where you finally were able to?
I don't think I would change anything. I wouldn't give me any like information here. And this is the reason I like who I am today. I like where my life is today. If I went back to younger me, I wouldn't listen. One, because I'm super headstrong, and I wouldn't tempt the fate like that because I could have like a totally different outcome than now, right?
Yeah, definitely. I love your commitment that you shaved your head.
Oh, so I remember like they were like, oh, you have to go on bowl cap ripped, and I was just like, and my hair, I started growing, it was here, and somebody for some reason was doing a number where they wore a nude bodysuit with a bush out, and they were shaving their pubes to reveal a dildo, and so I was like, I'm gonna use that, and I shaved my head. And everybody was just like, she must be on meth. She must be on meth. That's what that is. And I was just like, no, not today.
So, a method act. Yeah. I want to acknowledge, Lexi, that you have actually been clean and sober for 2 years and 2 months. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
2 year. Yeah. So I have a recovery date of April 25th of 2018.
Congratulations, and we're definitely sending you well wishes and a lot of support. Thank you so much, both of you. Daniel, that was amazing, and Lexi, thank you for sharing or giving us the opportunity again to hear Brian's story. Daniel, tell me, or tell our audience rather, how was it for you sharing the story?
I love to have this opportunity, and it's so great to be a part of this project. I thank you so much, Lexi, for sharing your story because representation like this really matters. Stories like this have to be out there. A lot of times, especially queer stories, ended up being erased because a lot of our elders didn't have family members and stuff to pass on a lot of this. So cheers to you for sharing your story, and cheers Homeward Live for getting it out there, because it's nice just to know our history and know like, what people went through. You know, especially when we go to see you in your fabulous, polished show, it wasn't always that journey. And it's really nice for young people to be able to know that they can come from anywhere and come from any kind of adversity and end up in a great place like you are. So I'm so happy to see you thriving and sober, and it's really great.
Thank you. I just want to say something about that. Like when I was performing, and like I have like my friend Rebella, who's like my best friend in the whole entire wide world, and like, you know, like my friend Robbie, or like just different people in general. They had no idea. They knew something was wrong with me, but they didn't know like what was going on with me. Like they didn't know that like I could leave downtown bar and go about maybe 10 minutes down the street to where I was sleeping on the street in a tent.
It's always you have to check in on, you know?
Yeah. But I also didn't want people to know. I wanted to keep it like secret, like I was comfortable. You know, it's sick to say that for myself, but that's just what it was.
Lexi, you actually shared with me recently that you've been homeless off and on for 10 years on Skid Row. How did you become homeless?
So I'm pretty open. So I'm just going to say in 2002, 2003, I got arrested and I went to California State Prison, and I was released in 2008. And the thing about that is, you know, when you're released, there's really no support for you. They don't hand you like a pamphlet like, here, you need this, and go live your life and figure it out. They give you like $250 in a check and a bus ticket, and then you get dropped off, and then that's just where you are. And I ended up in downtown, and I was already a drug addict and alcoholic, and I'm more of an alcoholic than I am a drug addict, even though I did a lot of drugs. Alcohol was just something that I concealed and kept secret, but it was something that made me comfortable to live the way I did. And so when I got off that bus, I bought a bottle and I knew where to go. And so it's just easier that way for me at the time.
Okay. Now, you wanted me to share with our audience some information. Non-binary or genderqueer is a spectrum of gender identities that are not exclusively masculine or feminine, identities that are outside the gender binary. Non-binary identities can fall under the transgender umbrella, since many non-binary people identify with a gender that is different from their assigned sex. So tell me, Lexi, how is the transitioning for you to be? How has that been? What's the journey been like for you?
I get to be who I am. I get to be myself. It's not been easy. I tried to transition before I went to prison, and it didn't work out because I was using intravenous needles and things, and it just didn't, you know, it just wasn't the right time. And so now it's like, you know, I'm sober, and, you know, my life is okay, like it's great. And it's just so I like a lot of trans people that I know, or just people in the LGBTQIA community, period, whether they're male, female, or other. I have been very fortunate to still have my family. Not a lot of people in my community get to have that. And I think because of having recovery and also being a productive member of society, I get to live right side up today. And so with my transition, it's been a blessing. You know, like I go out, I don't care, like whatever you want to, like I don't care about none of that. You know, like say what you say, and I do me. And really, it's in my experience how I live and how I walk, and being in the skin that I'm in, I don't like nobody else trips. Some people say shit, like whatever, I don't care. But you know, I go home and I get to process that with people I love, and they're just like, well, maybe you're reaching, maybe you're exaggerating, or blah blah blah. But maybe, I don't know. It's just been really good, you know. Like I'll just say I have Kaiser, so Kaiser has been super supportive, kind and helpful, and I just, yeah, like, and I'm on injection for hormones, and you know, that takes me through, you know, moods, you know. So yeah.
So how much more time left is how much more is there left for your complete transitioning?
So it's just like a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a journey. You know, it's it doesn't, like, the injections never stop.
Okay.
It's just something that's like it's a constant thing. You know, like there is like steps to goals. There's like, you know, surgeries and like feminization and just different things. But I'm not rushing into anything. I'm just here because like the non-binary thing. Like, I have never identified as male or female. Like, I'm really in the middle. Like, I'll walk down the street with just like thick eyeliner and like boots and a suit, you know, because that's just me. But when I get to the part where my transition, I will be female resembling, but not identifying as a female or male. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate you educating. I mean, you're educating a lot of people, myself included. So we really appreciate both of you being here. Tell us, do you still perform in drag, and has that changed at all since you're doing your transitioning?
So I'll say three things. So drag is not a cis, gay, gender, male, or whatever you identify as thing. So it's like, it's not, it's a broader spectrum. I won't name all the names because I will mess it up. But you know, whether you're female or male resembling, whether you identify as the sex you're born in, whatever, drag is drag. There's no, I think drag is probably the ideal definition of non-binary, living outside the gender construct and the social norms of roles and gender. And so I don't perform as much as I used to. You know, I went into the mission and, you know, I just focused on that. And then like, I'm focusing on other things. And, you know, once in a while I do, but when it comes to like drag, it's, I don't do it as much as I used to because I do other things, I guess. It's not that I wouldn't do it. It's just, I'm in school and focusing on, and we're in a pandemic, and it's kind of scary to be outside because people don't want to wear a mask.
That's a great point you're bringing up. I want to ask both of you, Daniel, both of you, express to me, how are you holding up during this pandemic?
It's definitely a time to pivot because it's an interesting thing. I mean, I've been on tour for the past 2 years and now I'm just home every day. But just finding new ways to be creative and do what I could do. I just hope this ends because a lot of people are sick and I want them better. So,
amen, amen. Lexi, we have some wonderful pictures of you when you were still performing drag. We'd like to share. Can you tell us a little bit about these wonderful pictures?
Okay, so the one with the girl in the bottom corner,
that's Bobbie Joe.
Bobbie Joe.
Yeah.
And that was when you guys did the opening night at Homeward
LA, yeah,
at the Egyptian Theater. Yeah, I showed up and I came with my friend like Rebella and my best friend Angela and my friend Tina, and so we that's how I showed up. And then the other one is part of my audition tape to Dragula. We filmed that in the Northridge the Fashion Plaza in Studio City. So
Whoa,
that,
look at that.
so I love the background. So I'll just tell you a story. So all my life I've loved the idea of Wizard of Oz and the story of Oz, and I've really gotten lost in it. It's probably one of my most favorite stories to listen to or to read. Like, I just love everything about it. But it was my promo photo for Miss LA Pride. Yeah. And also there's that photo too was like the downward spiral of my life to where I ended up in the mission too. So there's a lot of, yeah.
Okay. All right. Daniel, you have an interesting and wonderful podcast. You want to tell us about Yes Jesus?
Yeah.
We're all laughing.
I grew up Pentecostal Christian. I went to conversion therapy. And my co-host, Azariah Southworth, was a host on TBN. He was a televangelist for like a music show, and then came out as gay and got fired and lost his little legacy that he was building there. And so we were friends that came together, and we were like kind of, smoking weed and talking about the Bible. And we were having some really deep conversations, and we were like, we should share them. So we have a non-slut shaming, sex positive podcast about Christianity and theology through the gay rainbow lens, and finding out that there's so many stories of queer erasure and African erasure and everything else that have been in the Bible throughout the years that have been just lost in translation or purposefully left out or censored, or just even perspectives where we're not sure. It's really interesting talking with you, Lexi, because like one of the stories we just covered was Joseph and his coat of many colors, and the coat is referred to as a ketanit pasim, which is only referred to one other time in the Bible, where it's referred to as a princess dress that a king would give his daughter when she's about to get married. So it's possible, and it only does service to the Bible to wonder if Joseph perhaps was either genderqueer or a trans person of color. So like, it's an interesting concept, and which would make a lot of sense why the brothers took the coat and tore it up and beat him up and all these other things. So it's interesting because a lot of times I think as a Christian, when you come out as gay, you have to make the choice between gay or God. And we're here to say we're not preachers, we're not teachers, we're just sinners, and we're asking questions, and like we just want to ask these questions, and it just serves one of the greatest disservices people have done to the Word of God is put a back cover on the Bible. Like, because people are done writing doesn't mean God stopped talking. So we're just exploring and asking questions, and it's a fun way to do it. I mean, we even have a once a month baked Bible story like Drunk History, where we go. We're just trying to look at it differently, like, and be honest about who we are as humans, and then honest about what the questions that we're asking, and trying to put those two together instead of being puritanical in a suit on Sunday and being wild, Monday through Saturday.
Well said. Well said. Lexi, you have an interesting, wonderful podcast documentary called You, Me, Tomorrow. Can you tell us about
So it's not even like up yet. Like, I've just started putting it together. But basically, I packed my car up, and got in my car and drove to Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Oregon, and back to California, like 17 days. And I went and filmed queer stories, interviewed queer stories in these different places about what it was like for you to be you in the community that you live in. And I think like where my heart was in that documentary was Wyoming. There's only 2 doctors in the whole state of Wyoming that treat people living with HIV or AIDS. And they rely heavily upon funding and grant writing and money. And they lost a lot of their grant funding this year because of the COVID. And so I got to go there and to tell this story. And pull in these testimonies from people living there that depend on these fundraisers for healthy water wells and transportation. Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing. Absolutely, we're looking forward to it, and we will definitely be supporting your podcast, Daniel. Yes, Jesus.
You can follow us at Yes Jesus Pod anywhere.
You said what? I'm sorry.
Yes Jesus Pod on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
Wonderful, wonderful. This has been an amazing night, an informative night, an insightful night. I'm so honored and thankful to have both of you with us. Any thoughts or anything you both would like to share before we say good night? It's been pretty phenomenal.
I think I touched on what I touched on before, is just that how important it is to tell stories, especially stories like this, because it's the only way that people can learn, about what it's like to be somebody different. Because as soon as if you have a story out there, if you feel like you're not represented, if you don't see yourself portrayed, if you don't really understand who you are inside, that means that there's a version of you that needs to hear your story in order to feel represented. So I just commend you for sharing, and please, everyone else, keep telling your stories.
Thank you for telling my story. And thank you to Emily, who's been like a blessing in my life since I've met her. And I think just two things that I want to say is that, there is an organization called DTLA Proud, who is a newer organization in downtown that is trying to get started up because there is no LBGT QIA specific services in downtown for the community, and they're trying to put this together. And so if anybody wants to check them out or see what they're about, it's DTLA Proud. And then the other thing is I want to thank the Midnight Mission. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. And I'll be internally grateful for the life that they gave back to me, and no amount of service or volunteer work or helping people, I can never make a dent in what they've given me. And I will, this podcast, I mean, not this podcast, Homeward LA inspired me to travel. I've had, just the Midnight Mission gave me my life back, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Daniel and Emily and Sean.
All of Homeward LA. Thank you both. This has really been a wonderful night, and wish you both continued blessings and great health from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. Keep telling your stories.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. What an amazing night. Really, really special. Thank you all for tuning in. You can follow us on social media at facebook.com/Homeward LA, on Instagram at Homeward Los Angeles, and on our website, www.homewardla.org. Please leave your email address so that we can, again, stay in touch with you and let you know about upcoming events that we have, including a podcast, which we're really excited about. Also, you can see previous episodes of Homeward Live on our YouTube channel at Homeward LA. Now, I have to share with you that tonight's story and all the stories that you hear at Homeward Live came from people who went through the Midnight Mission, an amazing nonprofit organization on Skid Row. Now, if tonight's story and Lexi and Daniel inspired you in any way, please give to the Midnight Mission to help them with their efforts. No amount is too small or too large. Black, white, Hispanic, Native American, Asian, straight, gay, lesbian, transgender. I believe that we have to celebrate our differences so that we can ultimately see our similarities. We all want the same thing. We want to inspire and be inspired, to be respected, and to be loved. Join us next week, August 6th, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, as we welcome Empire actress and star Tyronda Jones as she shares Sinnetti's story of trying to create a joyful Christmas for her children while being unhoused. Well, that's it. Take great care of yourself. Keep building, keep climbing, keep shining. We are Homeward LA. I'm Sean Baker, your host. This is Homeward Live. Peace and good night.